So this is my first day at Woodland Brutality 2022. It's a pretty local match to me, so it was nice that I got to go. This is actually the start of the first stage, and you were supposed to tap twice on the Humvee to tell him to go. But when I dropped the rifle in the bid there, he thought that was double tap to go, and so no, we weren't ready to go yet. So we had to yell at him to stop and reset. But for the actual stage, what you had to do is there's a torso down there at the end of the bay. The Humvee's going to drive away from it out to, you start at, I don't know, that's maybe what, 50 yards or something. And he drives to 100, and you have to get 5 hits on that steel as he's driving away. If you don't get 5 hits, then whatever you don't get, you have to do when he's at 200 yards after the next part of the stage. So the next part is you clear the rifle, show it clear, put it down, and then draw your pistol, and there are 3 pistol targets in 2 bays, 3 each, and you need to get them, and I killed one, you need to hit them once each before the Humvee gets to the next bay, or before you lose sight of them, and he's not going to stop, so you just have to get them before he gets to the end of the bay. And you'll see right here, I should have preactively reloaded, and the mag actually fell out. I didn't succeed, and I almost fell out of the Humvee there. I was hanging on by just my one pinky. So I ended up with 1 penalty there. I didn't get one of them, and then at the end you need to get 1 hit on that steel torso, which is now at about 200 yards, I think, or 180 something if you lased it out. And if at this point, if you didn't get 5 hits before, then you would make up the difference by just shooting them from here. Obviously, I didn't do that. So the next one is a pretty basic Casarda drill, and I'd practiced something like this before, just at Thermont, but I'd never done one at a match in this style before. And I didn't think it was a lot of fun because you're just doing one thing over and over again with one target. I found, and I'll get to this later, but the kinds of stages that I enjoy are where there's a lot to do. And they can still be marksmanship and physical challenges, but if there's a lot of movement going from positions to positions, and even if there's only a few targets, if you're engaging them from different angles, I find that to be much more interesting than something like this. I did finish this stage, and the way it works is there's 180 seconds, and there's 5 bonus lines. You have to throw the kettlebell, I think it was 53 pounds if I remember right, and you throw it, go to where the kettlebell lands, and then shoot from there. There's that one swinging target that's down at the end of the line, and every time you cross over one of those lines, it's a 15-second bonus to your time. So whatever you score you get at the end, you then take 15 seconds off for each line you cross. So if you get all the way to the end and clear it before the buzzer goes off, it's your time minus 75 seconds. And if you time out before you get to the end, then it's just 180 seconds minus however many lines you crossed, however many bonuses you got. I was getting really, really tired by this point. My arms were feeling like noodles. It took every ounce of willpower I had just to pick the rifle up, shoulder it, and aim it. It is a big hunk of wooden steel, and this is only my second stage of the day, so I wasn't too worn out from anything else, aside from just waiting. But just heaving that kettlebell over and over again, and then picking up, a 9 or 10 pound rifle, however much it weighs, I forget exactly. And there was another thing that happened on this stage. My M1 occasionally, not very often, has a tendency to prematurely eject clips. Actually, didn't happen here, but sometimes what we'll do is to fire like 3 or 4 rounds and then try and shoot the clip out. So I need to disassemble it at some point and look at the clip latch spring, or maybe look at the clip latch itself to see if it's rounded over at all. See, I think at this point there's maybe one more toss. We were joking, Finn and I, who was also shooting this match with an M1, that maybe we're going to be able to flip that target over, because when you hit it with 30-06, especially this close, it really gets moving. I asked if there was a bonus for completely spinning it over, but no, there isn't. See, I'm missing even at close range. That's just how tired my arms are and how hard it was to aim that thing when you've been doing this for almost 3 minutes. And I made it just under the wire, 179.91, I think. This one was actually my favorite match of the favorite stage rather of the whole match. So what you do is you run up, there's a staged DPM machine gun, and there's 3 poppers at 200 yards, and however many rounds are in the pan there, you can try and knock over the poppers. And it's not required that you do that, so I just dump the rounds at it, which is pretty neat. And then you clean up however many poppers you didn't get with your rifle, and then there's 2 additional steel torsos at about 400 yards that you then have to hit with your rifle as well. And this is probably the first time where I noticed the helmet actually getting in my way. It was falling down in front of my eyes and pushing my glasses down, which made it kind of hard to see the targets. So it's not on camera because the cameraman didn't get it, but I did eventually throw my helmet off, you'll see. That made it a bit easier for me to acquire the poppers, because they are also completely flat gray against the brown background. The torso targets at 400 yards were not hard for me to see at all. One of them I had to walk on a little bit, but then the second one I hit with just a single shot. The M1 makes that pretty easy. It has fantastic iron sights. Out of all of the World War II era rifles and before that I have on my rack, the M1 has the best iron sights by far. They're the easiest to use, the easiest to adjust, easiest to zero, just hands down. Nothing else even compares, not even the number 4. I can't tell if I'm still engaging the poppers. It might be at this stage. Okay, now I'm on to the second torso target. I should get this in one shot and end on a ping. There it is. You can see I've already thrown my helmet off because I got tired of it. What I did at the end of this day was I tightened up the drawstring at the top of the liner, and that made the helmet sit up higher. So that wasn't an issue anymore. I was actually really pleased with my pistol shooting throughout this whole match. I was taking time to really focus on my trigger press to make sure that the pistol didn't move when I shot, and it really paid off. I was really proud of how all that went, especially with the 1911 7-round mags. That was a handicap. The M1 in 30-06 was not really a drawback, or not as much as some people think at a match like this. But having 7-round mags in a pistol definitely is an encumbrance. You end up leaving just a trail of mags behind, no matter how accurate you are. And at this point, you show clear for your pistol, and then there's another log you can see there. That's the last shooting position. And you engage the steel torso targets again, which are now at about 200 yards with the rifle again. And these I just cleaned perfectly, one shot each. There we go, yep. Yeah, that was my favorite of the whole day. There's a lot of movement, a lot of targets, and just a lot of cool stuff. This one gave a lot of people trouble. So what it was is there's a steel torso down there, and there's a couple of VTACs. And what you do is you engage it with through 4 of the VTAC ports with the rifle, just 1 hit each, and then using 3 steps on the outside of the VTAC with the rifle. And then next to the torso is a spinner, and you just spin the spinner with your rifle, which I thought was going to be easy, but what I didn't account for was me missing with the rifle, which is kind of embarrassing. I shouldn't have had that problem. But once I did hit it with 2 consecutive shots, I was able to go over without any trouble at all. Yeah, the shooting of the VTAC barricades was not a problem. And I should mention again, after you spin the spinner with your rifle, I think I'm going to throw my helmet off here at some point too, because it was getting in the way again. After you spin the spinner with the rifle, then you move down, there's another VTAC that's closer and it's off at an angle. You engage the torso again with your pistol through 4 of the VTAC ports, and yeah, this is what happened. This is what I'm talking about with the clip latch being weak and sometimes prematurely ejecting clips. So I'm not even gonna try to stuff it back in, just get rid of it, get another clip in the gun. And then after this, you go down to that second VTAC, as I was saying, use 4 ports and then 1 of the lowest ports down the ground. Yep, get rid of that thing. And then you stand up and engage the same spinner with a pistol. Now this spinner had something up with it. We could see before we started shooting, watching other people, that the spinner had some side-to-side wobble, and it was immediately obvious that that was dampening its movement and robbing it of basically all of its momentum. You see, even though I spun it with the rifle, by the time I get up there, the thing is basically at a standstill again. Because we were thinking that, if we have these big-ass guns and we can get the spinner going, and if it still has some momentum, we can keep it going and spin it easier, but no, there was no chance of that at all. yeah, you can see that here, getting rid of the rifle because it's in the way on the low pour. You could do that. You could just lay it down on the ground. And then here, loading up the pistol and trying to square up. The other thing with this spinner was you were engaging it at an angle as opposed to perfectly perpendicular. So in addition to it losing most of its momentum from having that wobble, you were at an angle, so you weren't imparting all the energy that you could, and you also had to account for the lateral movement of the spinner relative to you. So it's just that much different from a normal spinner presentation to make it a challenge. And on the scoreboard, only 39 people out of 180 were able to get both spinners. I'm not sure. It didn't the penalties don't distinguish between the pistol and rifle spinners, so it's impossible for me to tell who got which spinner. But the amount of people that were able to get both under par was a minority of people in the match. You can see here that that's when I run out of time, and that was actually pretty common. So that was it for my Desert Brutality run on the first day. I'm going to upload later day 2, which was also a lot of fun. I was able to recuperate some energy there. So stay tuned for when I upload that after this video. Goodbye.